Before we started the Mass, the TV screen flashed the scenes of the Mass celebrated by the Holy Father in St. Peter's Square. And the TV screen also flashed the facade of St. Peter's Basilica. And I remember that when you enter St. Peter's Basilica, at the right side, as soon as you are inside, you will see the famous work of art by Michelangelo, the so-called Pietà. Pietà is an Italian word for mercy. And Pietà is a sculptural depiction of the Blessed Virgin Mary carrying in her hand her son, Jesus, lying dead on her lap. And the tourists and the pilgrims could not but stop for a while and take a closer look. And many of them would exclaim, "Oh, this is awesome, this is fabulous." Precisely because they appreciate and they admire how Michelangelo intricately carved the image of the mother and her son. But too bad, and it is sad to note, that Pietà and that place has become a tourist spot, not a shrine. A tourist spot just to see, but not a place where people are led to pray and to reflect and meditate. If we take a closer look and try to analyze the meaning of the Pietà, we would see a deeper meaning to what is being explained or what we will see. And it is, Pietà actually is Mater Dolorosa. It's the sorrowful mother, the sorrowing mother. And I would like to think that Pietà, or the Mater Dolorosa, describes the essence of the sorrows of the Blessed Virgin Mary. It captures the real core, the real meaning of how the Blessed Virgin Mary felt deep sorrow beholding her son dead. And so an Eastern Orthodox theologian, John Breck, says that Pietà or Mater Dolorosa is not just a product of Roman medieval piety, but in fact, it is profoundly evangelical truth, firmly rooted in the biblical witness. In other words, even if Michelangelo made this so beautiful, yet the Pietà itself is firmly rooted in the Bible. And we will see that later. So that the Pietà should not only lead the people to admire the beauty of art, but it should lead the people to reflect and pray and even to ask the question, how did the Blessed Virgin Mary feel knowing that her son was already dead? And let me put a concrete question to all the mothers. How do you feel looking at your son suffering or looking at your son at the brink of death? Only the mothers can answer this, not even the fathers. Because the mother has her own way of feeling the sorrow deep within herself. And the father differently feel for his son too. So that in order to understand the sorrows of the Blessed Virgin Mary, of which we are commemorating today, then we have to go back. We have to go back to the events in the life of the Blessed Virgin Mary, so that at least we can understand that this mother suffered a lot knowing that her son was already dead. Let's take a look at this evangelical truth which John Breck told us about It is in the Bible and it is in the patristic witness that this Pieta, this Mater Dolorosa, is very, very evident. We could say that the life of Mary is a life of sorrow. Yet, the Holy Mother, our Church, singles out 7 sorrows of the Blessed Virgin Mary so that we can lovingly cherish and commemorate them. And we are doing that today as we are celebrating this Mass. Let's take a look at the first. The first sorrow of the Blessed Virgin Mary is during the time of the presentation, in which Simeon, taking the child in his arm, prophesied to Mary that the child was set for the fall of some and the resurrection of others, and that he should be a sign of contradiction. And he even added that sorrows will soon to come, and your own soul a sword shall pierce, that the thoughts of many hearts may be revealed. That itself is already deep wound to the Blessed Virgin Mary. That was still at the presentation. The second sorrow is that when the Blessed Virgin Mary, along with Joseph, fled to Egypt by night in order to protect the child from the hatred of King Herod. It was not an easy ordeal. The third sorrow is that she, the Blessed Virgin Mary, turned to Jerusalem with Joseph and with all the torments, and they were racked by anxiety. Mary and Joseph searched for 3 long days until they found the child Jesus in the temple. The anxiety was not easy to handle. The fourth sorrow of the Blessed Virgin Mary is when the dread hour came, when Jesus looked upon Our Lady, and Mary gazed on the bruised and bleeding face of her son. Can you imagine that? Not easy to imagine. Even if you can picture that out, but you would never know how the Blessed Virgin Mary feel about looking at her son, bruised with all and with his bleeding face. The fifth sorrow is that Mary stands broken-hearted beneath the cross of Jesus, where he poured forth his precious blood to the last drop for our redemption. Oh. The sixth, actually, is when we contemplate the Blessed Virgin Mary, the Mother of Sorrows, after the crucifixion, receiving the still, inanimate, tortured body of her son into her arms. And that is the Pieta. And much more when the Blessed Virgin Mary said farewell to Jesus the night of the first Good Friday. It is very hard to imagine. And that's precisely why even Saint Alphonsus of Liguori, in summary of the sorrows of the Blessed Virgin Mary, says, and he describes Mary as the Queen of Martyrs, because her martyrdom was longer and greater than that of all martyrs. Saint Bernard also says that Mary was a martyr not by the sword of the executioner, but by bitter sorrow of heart. And that is even so difficult, and the wound is deep than the sword pierced and inflict upon the body. But the question is, if the Blessed Virgin Mary suffered all this sorrow, what does this mean to us? Is it enough to know that the Blessed Virgin Mary suffered with all these 7 sorrows? I don't think so. Knowing, and as we commemorate today the sorrows of the